In 2023, Goldman Sachs projected that generative artificial intelligence could automate the equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs globally. The person currently dictating the speed of this transition is not Elon Musk, and he is also not Jeff Bezos. This is 39-year-old Sam Altman. As the CEO of OpenAI, he has moved from a simple software executive to a central figure in the global race for energy and compute. While the public uses ChatGPT, Altman is directing billions into physical assets. His roadmap includes a $375 million investment in nuclear fusion and the $500 billion Stargate project. This scale of infrastructure planning is usually reserved for sovereign nations. To understand how a Stanford dropout gained this much leverage, we have to look past the AI hype and reverse engineer the specific decision-making framework he has used since he was a child. Altman's focus on complex systems began in 1993. When he received an Apple Macintosh at age 8, he immediately began teaching himself to programming. This comfort with difficult paths continued through high school, where he came out as gay in 2001, and into his sophomore year at Stanford, where he walked away from a prestigious degree to build his first startup, Looped. Looped raised $30 million, but the 2005 market wasn't ready for a location-based social network. Without mainstream smartphones or widespread GPS usage, the company's growth stalled. In 2012, Green Dot acquired the company for $43 million. Altman chose to characterize the exit as a failure because it barely returned the initial investment. This public admission of a win being a loss earns him a reputation for brutal honesty in a valley known for spin. That reputation led Y Combinator founder Paul Graham to name Altman his successor. At 28, Altman took over the world's most influential startup accelerator, pivoting its strategy to prioritize a founder's long-term obsession over their immediate product. By mentoring the founders of Airbnb, Stripe, and Reddit, Altman was essentially mapping the structural requirements of every major tech industry. He wasn't just watching companies grow, he was learning exactly which resources they needed to survive. In 2015, Altman applied those lessons to AI. While most researchers viewed artificial intelligence as a decades-away academic theory, Altman secured $1 billion to launch OpenAI as a nonprofit dedicated to safe artificial general intelligence. When OpenAI eventually released ChatGPT, it became the fastest-growing consumer application in history, reaching 100 million users in just 2 months. Success brought internal friction. On a Friday in November 2023, the OpenAI board fired Altman during a brief video call, claiming he wasn't consistently candid with them. You don't remove the architect of the fastest-growing company in the world without a concrete reason. The loyalty Altman had cultivated among his staff became his shield. 700 of the company's 770 employees signed a letter threatening to resign if he wasn't reinstated. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, with $13 billion already committed to OpenAI, used his corporate weight to offer Altman and his entire team a new home at Microsoft, effectively making the OpenAI board's position untenable. Within 96 hours, the board was replaced and Altman returned as CEO. The event demonstrated that in the modern economy, real power lies in the loyalty of a highly specialized workforce. Following his return, Altman pushed OpenAI to a $300 billion valuation, but he also recognized a looming limitation. AI software is only as capable as the hardware it runs on and the power that hardware consumes. We are entering a period where electricity and compute are the world's most valuable commodities. To bypass the energy bottleneck, Altman personally invested $375 million in Helion Energy. If Helion achieves nuclear fusion, it provides a path to the massive amounts of clean energy required for future AI models. To solve the hardware bottleneck, he is leading the Stargate project. This $500 billion infrastructure build-out would create the largest network of data centers in history, based right here in the United States. For those looking to understand where the economy is moving, the strategy is to look past the apps to the foundational supply chain Altman is building. His roadmap is creating intense demand in 3 specific areas: advanced semiconductor manufacturing, hyperscale cloud computing, and modernizing the electrical grid. Sam Altman is positioning his companies to control the core resources of the next industrial era. To navigate this decade, investors must focus on the physical infrastructure being laid today, or risk being sidelined by the economy it builds tomorrow. This chart shows OpenAI's revenue. 2022 was $28 million. 2026 hits $25 billion, an 893 times multiplier. Overlaying Microsoft's stake shows the true scale. An initial $13 billion investment is now valued at $147 billion, an 11 times return in 4 years. Sam Altman is currently engineering artificial general intelligence. He is building a machine capable of human-level reasoning, a project he admits is among the most transformative and potentially dangerous technologies in history. Building a machine that can think requires massive amounts of electricity just to power the necessary data centers. Energy is the bottleneck. This is why Altman is pouring money into companies like Helion and obsessing over nuclear power infrastructure. Altman expects this combination of intelligence and energy to automate so many jobs that we will need a new economic model. He has already begun testing this by funding experiments in universal basic income, anticipating a world where the standard rules of labor and wealth distribution no longer apply. While tech executives map out post-labor economies, regular workers are facing an immediate threat. Goldman Sachs estimates that global AI automation will disrupt 300 million jobs. This horizontal bar chart breaks down the white-collar professions facing the highest risk right now. Data entry and processing sit at an 85% automation risk. Customer service representatives face a 75% risk, and basic accounting follows closely at 70%. When faced with data like this, the natural reaction is anxiety. But Sam Altman's personal operating framework relies on moving with intense urgency without letting it turn into panic. He analyzes the board and makes calculated moves. His primary strategy relies on making asymmetric bets. You find an investment of your time or your money that carries severely limited downside. The worst-case scenario won't ruin you, but the upside is completely uncapped. Staying secure in this market means moving from a fixed employment mindset to one of active participation. Survival depends on placing calculated asymmetric bets rather than waiting for the job market to stabilize. OpenAI is not building this future in isolation. The most valuable companies on Earth are engaged in a frantic trillion-dollar technological arms race. Google is currently playing a brutal game of defense. They literally created the architecture that makes ChatGPT possible, but deploying it threatens their own $175 billion search advertising monopoly. They have to make an asymmetric bet on their own AI just to protect their existing territory. Over at Meta, Mark Zuckerberg is spending $65 billion this year alone to open source his AI models. By giving the technology away for free, he leverages his 3 billion daily users across Instagram and WhatsApp to crush competitors' subscription models. Elon Musk walked away from OpenAI to launch his own competitor, xAI. He is integrating his Grok model directly into his social media platform's data stream, explicitly stating he wants to build AGI as rapidly as possible. Trillion-dollar monopolies with endless cash reserves are being forced to make massive, aggressive bets just to ensure their own survival. The everyday worker faces the exact same reality, just on a different scale. You don't need billions in venture capital to place a bet. The World Economic Forum projects that while AI will displace 85 million jobs globally by 2025, it will also create 97 million entirely new ones. Capitalizing on this net positive means pivoting into roles that didn't exist a few years ago. Companies are hunting for AI trainers. They need expert data scientists and highly skilled prompt engineers. The ultimate micro-bet you can make right now costs nothing but time. You dedicate 30 days of free, self-directed learning on platforms like YouTube to understand how tools like Claude and Midjourney actually work. The downside is you waste a few weekends. The upside is acquiring a skill like AI-assisted coding, which makes developers 55% more productive and commands salaries well over 6 figures. Artificial intelligence is not going to replace humans. It is going to replace the humans who refuse to learn how to direct it. Beyond your own skills, you can deploy your money using the exact same logic. Trying to guess which individual AI software startup will survive is a gamble. Instead, you invest in the physical infrastructure they all desperately need. Every major language model requires hardware. NVIDIA designs the graphic processing units that ChatGPT and Google rely on to function. They are the essential supply line for the entire industry. Microsoft and Amazon represent the secondary layer. Amazon Web Services powers a third of the internet, while Microsoft integrates its AI directly into its rapidly growing Azure cloud platform. If picking individual stocks carries too much risk, you can broaden your bet. Index funds like the Invesco QQQ track the NASDAQ 100, automatically spreading your money across Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Meta simultaneously. Wealth in this cycle comes from owning the foundational layer, the physical chips, the servers, and the data centers. This infrastructure-first approach historically provides more reliable returns than speculating on individual software startups. This pie chart maps a $100 AI portfolio, 40% QQQ, 30% Nvidia, 20% Microsoft, and 10% Amazon. Projecting this monthly allocation forward on a line graph, consistency takes over. At 15% historical returns, this compounds to $150,000 over 2 decades. Sam Altman didn't build OpenAI overnight. He spent 7 years quietly working on the technology before ChatGPT went mainstream. He relentlessly compounded his knowledge, his professional network, and his capital. The internet created trillion-dollar companies and minted a new class of billionaires. Altman publicly states that artificial intelligence is 100 times larger in scope than the internet. This move toward AI-driven labor is happening right now, in real time. You have the data. You have the strategy. Now you have to choose whether you are going to watch it happen or make your first asymmetric bet.